Okay, what I'm about to tell you was a huge breakthrough for me. Now, this took me from improving, getting good, like 2013, 2014, 2015, getting good in the marathon, getting to 237. This then took me to 221 marathon and 100K British champion, and then representing Great Britain for the ultramarathon and my country, England, for the marathon. This was a huge breakthrough, and I got this from other athletes and testing it through myself. And a lot of the things you will get so much more if you try and test and get your personal feedback and how it works for you. But you have to give it enough time in order to reap those benefits and see what that actually feels like for your body. Now, what I'm talking about is fasted training. So within this video, I'm going to tell you, talk through exactly how I implemented it and how it worked for me, and where I implement it still today, and when I don't. So fasted training, not eating breakfast before you go out and run, and when to do it and when not to do it, and how it impacted my training and how you can implement it into your training. So back in when I restarted running, you're improving. And I was improving rapidly because I'd gone from not running and just playing team sports, football and rugby, done some cycle touring, to all of a sudden getting really serious about running, getting really obsessed about running. And so naturally, as you become obsessed and you're looking at different training plans, different speed workouts, different long runs, different hill reps, all the different weapons we have in our armor in running, naturally you're moving forward. And one of the main reasons you're moving forward is all of a sudden you're committed. And so you're committed to progress and your human development. And so naturally, whatever you do, if you say that, okay, my diet is hamburgers, I only eat hamburgers for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but all of a sudden you're committed to running, you could make the mistake of thinking that hamburgers is your secret weapon, because it's actually taking you from a 30-minute 5K all the way to a 15-minute 5K. You might think hamburgers is a secret recipe, but this is tried and tested based on me looking at the best ultra runners in the world. So who was really thinking about it when I was starting to get to a point where I was running a few ultras, I was starting to take victories, but I hadn't broken through. And the people that I looked up to was Zach Bitter, who was doing really, really special things in the US and went on to break the 100-mile world record, the 12-hour American or world record, and was doing a lot of his training fasted. So I wanted to know what he was doing, why he was doing it. And what I found out was simply this, and I'll put it in super simple terms because it is a simple method. Most of his training was fasted, and so most of my training became fasted. And the way you safely insert that into your training is you put it on your easy runs and recovery run days. It's still really important for you to train your stomach to take in the right breakfast, the right gels, the right sports drink, whatever you're working with for your race day and preparing for your race. It's really important to test those things in your long run and your speed session, your midweek interval session. But the rest of the runs for me became fasted. And so what that looks like is I'll wake up in the morning, I'll drink water, and I'll go out and run. And at first, that's difficult, especially if you're used to eating a breakfast. But it's also more convenient. And it also means that I don't have to wait that time for, I've talked a lot about my breakfast. It's just 5 bananas blended in a smoothie, blended with water. And it's very easy to metabolize that. It's very easy because of the surface area to get that in. It's a lot of sugar, it's a lot of carbohydrates, but it works really well for me. And it means that I can get up later. That I use for the interval day and for the long run, because I want to practice towards race day. I want to be prepared, my stomach to be prepared, as well as my physical self to be prepared, ready for race day. And that's all about practice. What the fasted training does is to wake up, run slow or run easy, run recovery, run easy, is it gets your body to a point where it becomes more efficient at tapping into your fat stores as a primary fuel source. So let me say that again. Your body can become more efficient at tapping into your fat stores as a primary fuel source instead of glycogen, instead of carbohydrate. So if you've been fasting and overnight sleep and then 2-3 hours before bed you've not eaten, you have 12-14 hours where you've not eaten anything. That's the perfect time to go out and train, because a few things are going to happen. You're going to burn fat much faster. So you're going to become leaner, and that's going to create a better physique, but it's also going to create a better chassis for a runner's body, which is going to make you faster. but it's also going to make you more efficient at tapping into that fat. So if you're training for half marathon, marathon, ultra marathon, you actually don't need as much sugar during the race. So you don't need to rely on that sugar, because your body at quite a high heart rate, and I'll come on to heart rate in a minute, quite a high heart rate can still efficiently tap into that fat and use it as fuel. Now, again, this is personal experience, and also with Zach Bitter, that was personal experience. There's quite a few athletes, and whether it's cyclists, runners, swimmers, triathletes, lots of athletes work this way. But the reason it's difficult to promote is because it's very, very difficult to do a scientific study with trained athletes, very serious runners, to say, okay, controlled group of a decent sample study, let's say 50, they're going to be fasted, and we're going to do this for 12 weeks, 6 months, 2 years, ideally longer, and another group that is going to work with breakfast. Very, very difficult to fund that, and who gets anything out of it? So it will never happen. In the same way that we've not proved yet that water hydrates you. We can only say it may help with improvement, and exactly the same with things like vitamin C, magnesium. You'll see that the terminology takes the risk away. Magnesium might help with muscle function. It might help with recovery. It might help, potassium might help stop, a supplement might help stop cramps. So very careful, because those studies have not been able to do, because you cannot have the other control group that's not taking potassium, because it's dangerous. And it's also, what's in it for who. What it allows you to do, and gradually over time, so, typically when you look at any sort of running related material, they will tell you at 65% of your max heart rate, your body starts to burn more glycogen, more carbohydrate, more of your breakfast, more of your lunch, whatever it is, it starts to burn more of that than fat as a primary fuel source. By training on your recovery runs and easy runs and training your body to burn fat as a primary fuel source, that percentage heart rate, so your percentage of your max heart rate, can be elevated. And Zach Bitter got it to 90%. So tested in the lab, what can it do? And that's why he was able to break the 100-mile world record and the 12-hour record, because he's able to run those distances, really long distances, and not upset the stomach too much by taking in too much. We now don't know that you can actually do both. So the secret method here is do the fasted training 4 or 5 days a week. For me, it's 4 days a week, two recovery runs, 2 easy runs, and the time that I'm on the bike as well. And then for the interval session, the fast session, you're using carbohydrates. So you're training the stomach to take in 80 grams of carbohydrate per hour. Exactly the same in the long run. You're teaching it to go long, you're teaching it to go fast, and taking the carbohydrate. Use the carbohydrate, don't have it sloshing around in the stomach, but use it to get faster. And for the long run, you're teaching it to go fast, to take in a lot of carbohydrate over an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, 80 grams of carbohydrate per hour. Imagine how that super fuels you if you're also tapping into a lot of fat as a primary fuel source. So he got his to 90%. What I found and what I felt was I just had much more in the tank in the final third of a race, in the final quarter of a race. So together with the nutrition, but initially just on 40 grams of carbohydrate per hour, so under carbohydrated, I would say now under carbohydrate, just literally going off the back of the package, should take one of these gels every 40 minutes. And using fasted training, I then realized that I had way more energy in the final third of a race. And in the final half of a race, I run many negative splits, because you'd stick with the pack, you stick with the race front leaders, and then you'd be able to go. You had energy and they didn't. That was a massive breakthrough moment for me. And so when it got to 100K, and I'm trying to hold 4 minutes per kilometer for 6 hours and 40 minutes, I was able to do that because I'd taught my body to burn fat as a primary fuel source by waking up and just getting out there. Of course, that also makes it super convenient for you. It also makes your training much more enjoyable first thing in the morning, because although it might take 1 or 2 weeks to get used to it, once you realize that you don't need a breakfast, you don't need to settle your stomach, your body actually adapts really, really quickly, becomes a superpower. And so if you want a superpower in running, if you want anything like a shortcut, it's getting your nutrition right on race day, and then therefore training towards it and training with it, but it's also teaching your body to burn fat as a primary fuel source. It's going to make you lighter, it's going to make you faster, and it's going to make you have more energy, to tap into more energy, glycogen, and your fat stores in whatever distance you're training towards. Good luck. And if you've got anything from that, please hit the notification bell, and if you've got any questions about that, how to insert it, let me know in the comments below.